Welcome to Trans Canada Stories. I'm Cynthia Sweeney and I use she, her pronouns.
I'm Emma Stanley. I use she, her pronouns. In this podcast, we go beyond the binary coast to coast, telling the stories of trans people as people. Having driven through wind and snow and the Québécois Pass, today's guest is on the road for her tour and is here today in Halifax to chat with us.
Sophie Labelle is a neurodivergent trans cartoonist and novelist from Montreal, Quebec, Canada. She is a prolific author of the webcomic Assigned Male, which has been running since 2014. Welcome to the studio, Sophie.
Thanks for having me.
We are really excited to have you here today. And but how is your trip here? I think it wasn't without a little bit of East Coast maritime winter weather.
It was eventful. We hit the first big snowstorm in eastern Quebec, and yeah, it's been filled with fun adventures and encounters. Loved it.
Oh, well, we're so glad you're here, and we can't wait to hear about all the stops you're taking while you are here in Nova Scotia, and having you on the show.
So, Sophie, what brings you to Nova Scotia? You mentioned you were on a tour, a last big splash in Canada.
Yeah, well, I've been touring a lot for the past year and a few months, but the tour is ending. The tour has pretty much already ended, but I was back in Canada for the launch of my newest novel in French, En coup de vent. French being my first language. I've been just like casually publishing novels like that, but yeah, it was also the International Book Fair in Montreal, so that's why I crossed the Atlantic, because right now I live in Finland, so yeah, I don't get to come to Canada that often. And since I was in the country, I figured that I would, accept some invitations for talks, and that's why I'm here. I'm going to be speaking at a school in Halifax, and yeah, catch up with friends, I guess.
What does it look like when you go to a school?
Well, it really depends on the vibe. Sometimes I just follow the lead of the students. If they are very receptive to my jokes, then I will tell more jokes. And if they want to know everything about being a cartoonist, then I will talk about my work and my job. And if the questions are a little more serious or like based in activism, then I'm more likely to talk about queer and trans issues or feminism or all sort of social activism, I guess. So it can take lots of very different roads. I was speaking in Ontario last week, actually. Well, I'm around, I announced this leg of my school tour, and people in Vancouver were like, "Well, what about us?" And I was like, "Well, there's like
it's a little bit off the track. It's off the beaten track."
Yeah, I wanted to be back home before Christmas, because living in Finland, we have had snow for already 6 or 7 weeks.
Okay.
So,
Wow.
so yeah, my husband is stuck at home. We live in the forest, in the mountains, and so he's stuck at home shoveling, and I need to go back.
It still sounds beautiful.
Yeah.
So, I was reading about your past experience in Nova Scotia, and I know that in 2017 there was a book tour that had to get canceled, and there was a lot of emotion surrounding that, a lot of hate coming in through the mail, but a lot of support coming in from locals. Has that experience changed the way that you do tours?
It changed a lot of things for me, a lot of them for the better, because, when that happened, when this far-right forum decided to, send hate mail to the venue, and shout out to Venus Envy, by the way.
Oh yeah.
In Halifax. And yeah, when they decided to do that and we decided to pull up the event, I was landing in Halifax. I didn't drive this time. I didn't have my driver license yet. So I took the plane, and as the plane was landing, I was, putting airplane mode off. I just got the news that nothing was happening. So yeah, I met up with journalists who were interested to tell the story, and it was on the front page of most national newspapers the next day. Still today, half my readership know about my work because of that event. I doubled my readership back then. I was doing a book launch, and the book sold out within hours the next day. So
So do we say thank you to the haters?
oh yes,
I know,
thank you,
like,
haters.
yeah, thank you for elevating.
But it did open my eyes to how anti-trans activism was becoming this thing that was organized and had a force of action that we didn't foresee just a few years ago. I've been doing activism since 2009, 2010, and I would have never imagined what this became, with such important figures taking sides against trans people. I'm thinking about, a certain wizard school writer. And they're organized. I've been touring in the UK where, they've got politicians siding with actual radical anti-trans people, who are doing full-time activism against our existence. And that's very worrying. And it also forced me to move because it's that same moment when I got doxxed. My address got leaked on a far-right forum, and I had to move. And so, yeah, it really made me aware of the dangers that came with doing these comics. I've been getting hate mail. I've been getting haters since the very beginning, of course. It's the internet, after all. Have you been on the internet? But to see it become so organized and threatening people in mid space, that was definitely something I didn't understand when I started my work doing these comics in 2014.
Is that when you decided then to move from Montreal to Finland, or did you go via the UK first and then to Finland, or?
Oh my God, no, I met a Finnish guy. It was in 2017 that we met, actually.
Oh, nice.
It's actually funny because it's related to Halifax.
Oh.
Yes, because after this whole thing happened, to see the response from my audience, from the public, and the outpour of support, I really wanted to hit back at the haters. And so I announced a world tour, and any organization who wanted to invite me could. And so I was invited to give a series of talks in Finland for the Finnish Comic Society. And I met my husband there, who's, a member of that comic society. And yeah, that's why I live in Finland.
So you went there and you just never came back. You said, this is it?
Practically, yeah.
Wow.
No, houses, they have saunas in them, and it's very hard to just step away from that, to lower standards so much that houses don't have saunas de facto in them.
I know. It's
I really
once you have a
can't argue with
sauna, you
that.
just can't. Is Finland then really inclusive? Like, what would it be like there as far as trans inclusion?
Well, there's several aspects to that. I love Finland because Finnish is a language that is completely non-gendered.
Okay. Interesting.
They don't even use gendered titles. They exist, they have them, but you'll never get gendered on a daily basis. We call the president Mr. maybe, but that's it. So living there, especially during the pandemic where we didn't go out, I just spent 2 whole years not being gendered at all, which just felt amazing. Also, they have a very different relation to bodies because of saunas, actually. they're trained really young to just bring in all the different bodies in that room. Of course, that they're also humans. There is transphobia, there is body shaming, fat phobia, and such. But they don't have this puritanist relation to bodies where it's shameful and you need to cover it. And no, I like that aspect of it. But for several decades, they've been trying a lot since the 60s to appease both Russia and NATO, to just play both sides all the time. And that has transpired in several social policies surrounding, queer rights, for example, and trans rights. Now it's a lot more assumed, their side. Yeah, they've just joined NATO. So they've made huge progress in the past decade concerning trans and queer rights. So it's not looking so bland over there.
That's excellent. I know that you speak English and French. Are you learning Finnish?
Unfortunately, yes.
So you mentioned that in Finnish linguistically is really easy in terms of gender because it doesn't use gender very frequently. Coming from French, which is an extremely gendered language, did you find writing in French for a queer audience a challenge because of its very gendered nature?
It's a challenge because of how organized French is. We worship words in French in the sense that, if it's not in the dictionary, we can't use it. And it's a big thing, especially like in a minority context, like in Canada, where language is often, windling in several communities. And we're much more aware of the decline of French in Canada. And so creating words, creating new syntax to accommodate realities that, people weren't as aware of several decades ago, without the assentment of the French Academy, l'Académie Française. If this bunch of old white men in France don't approve of a word, then it doesn't exist. And so for myself, as an activist, as someone who has been participating in trans communities for so many years, it's always been like, it goes without saying that I will use new words that l'Académie Française didn't accept or something. They went ahead. They had a debate once. I think it was 2017 as well.
Big year for you.
Yeah, big year. They had this debate about what we call inclusive writing, which basically just says that masculine isn't the default, and cannot just use masculine to mean every gender. And they went ahead and concluded their debate to say that inclusive writing was a death sentence for French. French is so fragile. You just touch it wrong or look at it wrong, and bam, it's over. It's broken.
Terrible. Time to take a break from this Trans Canada Stories for a TD Connected Communities moment.
To all those listening, we've got an exciting giveaway happening. To enter for a chance to win a signed novel by Sophie Labelle, click the link below and tell us the name of one of her comics or books. That was a TD Connected Community moment, because community matters.
I wonder, was this the year? So I have a comic that I purchased from Cape and Cowl Comics and Collectibles from our good friend Jay. We Won't Be Erased. Was this 2017 or was this sooner? Because I feel like
that was 2019.
Oh, was it? So it was a little bit later. Okay.
Yes. But it is related to... it was a massive campaign in 2017. I wasn't the only trans artists being targeted. They targeted several other people. They decided to focus on me because after the backlash from the whole thing in Halifax again,
Yes.
my readers got together and got a very big alt-right group on Facebook deleted from the platform. And so they decided to focus on me after that for their campaign to drive trans people off of the internet. They wanted to make the internet unsafe for trans people because they realized how the internet was creating communities that were empowering for trans people, because that's hardly something we had access to prior to social media. When I started transitioning in the early 2000s, we weren't allowed as trans people to have friends that were trans. They were, doctors would be suspicious of that, of, people participating in community trans events and stuff like that, because they feared that we were being brainwashed, and stuff like that. And so before social media, it was really hard to talk together. It was very dangerous before that to have several trans people being seen together and things like that, because it was also easy targets. And
there's power in numbers, right? When they isolate you, it stifles.
But yeah, that's the reason why they started doing all these campaigns against trans people on the internet first, and they've been like working on their discourse, on their messaging, and we're seeing the results from that. And in 2019, the We Won't Be Erased hashtag on social media started getting a lot of attention, because it was actually the response from trans communities to this to these campaigns to get rid of transness in online spaces.
You've been writing books, comics, coloring books, and novels since I think 2014.
Writing, coloring books. That's funny.
Constructing?
Coloring, illustrating?
What first drove you to start making your comic?
Well, comics, I've always been making comics. Started making comics when I was 7. It really became my first mode of expression. That was something that every adult around me really encouraged, because because I had been diagnosed with a severe case of the genders. Yes,
the genders.
Yes, very sad.
Sounds awful.
No, for real. I was seeing doctors. My parents thought there was something wrong with my hormones. I mean, ultimately, right? Yes.
Fair.
Yeah, but
yes, but no.
I just remember this one pediatrician we went to see, who just, he gave me a full checkup, health checkup, and everything, and he just took my mom aside and was just like, "Miss, have you considered your child might just be very gay?" That was the context, my childhood, and when I got interested into comics when I was around 7, and I started making comics, comics back in the 90s, last century. That was
Archie.
I'm not ready for that. That was cold.
No, but it was perceived as this masculine thing.
Yeah,
it
very
was,
gender affirming for your parents.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And so they've really encouraged me into making comics, and all the adults around me at school and everything. My schoolmates, I was getting bullied quite a bit, but comics became my shell and my mode of defense. And I kept making comics my entire childhood, my teenagehood. And when I started Assign Mail Comics in 2014, it was mostly because I felt like I was very much done with activism. Since I was a teenager, I've been giving talks in schools, talking. Well, back then, it wasn't because I was an author. It was because I was a trans youth, and I was in the media a lot, talking about all these things. I was doing environmental activism as well. I was part of feminist groups at school and college and in the university. And when I started my comics, I was like, okay, I'm gonna make something that communities can use as a resource, as tools, so that they can catch a breath. They can take a break from activism. They
Yeah.
can. I'm just gonna lay it all out,
Mhm.
so I don't have to do it ever again. That was 10 years ago.
Still laying it out.
And how many have you published since? I think.
I'm at
Hundreds.
page about 1,600.
Oh my goodness.
And I'm not. I don't feel like stopping. I've been drawing a lot less lately, I must say, especially after this speaking tour in the UK that I've done. Especially in the UK, it was pretty intense. The MP of Peanistown, which is a county in England. Yes, it's a real thing.
No, it is real. Okay.
It's
Really?
Yes.
It's near Yorkshire.
So she, it is near
Oh, is
York,
it?
Sheffield.
Oh, there. Okay. Yep. Oh my goodness.
And yeah, she wrote in the media to denounce my tour, to say that I was all the usual about grooming children and
If you
stuff
live
like
in
that.
Peanistown.
Yes, and so there was demonstrations planned against my talk, and leaving for that UK tour, I basically just said goodbye to my husband, not knowing if I would see him again. I was in that mindset, and it was very traumatizing, the whole process of it, because then all the far right media were harassing me as well, and it ended up being a super nice event. There was a counter demonstrations there that vastly outnumbered the first protest.
It does seem, though, like as let's say the game is getting easier, but the stakes are getting worse, where compared to maybe 15 years ago, we have a lot more freedoms and certainly a lot more representation, a greater voice. But at the same time, trans people are facing this sort of unprecedented level of rage. And I'm curious, for someone who's been living openly for so long, do you think we're in a better position now than we were?
Oh, it's so different.
I know, it's
just
not a
so
very fair
different
question,
from
but
15 years ago. I keep meeting, trans youth, young adults who they're living their best lives, but at what cost? The sense that just stepping outside is activism now, because our mere existence is seen as a threat and something to be debated and something to be challenged. And yeah, we've seen the amount of hate that people have towards us a few weeks ago when they did all these protests against trans people throughout Canada. And yeah, that was a very scary moment to realize that amount of anger towards us. And so I couldn't answer that in the sense that a lot more people are out, a lot more people aren't waiting until they have less responsibilities. I suppose that back like 15 years ago, most of the activism was towards employment and housing and things like that. Now I think it wouldn't fly as much if people were found to be discriminated against on the workplace or for housing. It still happens, of course. Maybe we don't know the extent of how much it's happening, but I think people are much more aware, and people are much more
there's more visibility, and I guess there's the awareness with the measured amount of confusion with some, and then people that are just becoming aware because my friend's child is, or I know of somebody, or you're directly connected. I mean, for me as a parent of a trans child who right now they're going through the process of applying to different universities, and it's interesting, on every different place that they've applied so far, they've had the opportunity to put another gender, which is really interesting. They're thinking about it. Now, some of them don't get it right. I think one was male, female, or transgender. I was like,
God.
what?
Oh.
No, but I'm like, it's funny. I said to him, I'm like, what do you want to click there? He's like, oh, I'm going to click it because maybe I'll have a better chance of getting in. So it's like, okay. It's like, I got to use what I got to use. I got to use what I do have, Mom. Yes. But at least they're thinking about it at that level. They're creating residence situations that are safer for trans people, giving them the option of, I think one university has like a whole dorm, with, if you self-identify as LGBTQ2+, you can house on 2 levels there. And then in other ones, you can have your own space with your own bathroom. And so it's, that's hopeful to me. Like, I feel safer about launching him out into the big bad world, but
I've heard a point of view here and there that there's so much more anger about it because it's getting easier, and that this is sort of the last gasp of large-scale anti-trans sentiment. And that's kind of the version of it that I'm hoping for.
Yeah,
That'd be great.
I think we need to brace ourselves. So, being realistic, there's a movement towards the far right throughout the world as well. It doesn't take much to completely balance on the other side, and I want to be prepared for that eventuality.
Yeah, I agree. I think talking about the fragility of human rights, I think everybody needs to be aware of that, because one side may fall, but it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop there. So we try to talk a lot through education that it does impact everybody, and it takes a village.
I grew up, thinking of progress as being linear, as a queer youth, as a queer child. People kept telling me my entire childhood that, it's going to get better, and you're going to get rights, and, you will live freely, like that. And I've stopped seeing it as linear and more like cyclical, and it does help me process a lot of the things that are happening, and seeing it, like taking a step back and seeing the grand scheme behind it. You need to be prepared for the backlash and for different magnitudes of
I think it's really hopeful, though, for the next generation, the young generation coming up too, to see you and all of your successes, and you're living with your partner, husband in Finland. You have a sauna. So it's like, there's a lot.
I have 2 saunas. I know, it's a thing.
2.
It's a thing.
It's one too many.
So
saunas.
one is a dry sauna and one is
no. The other is one is electrical. The other is smoke sauna.
Okay.
It's more traditional. Finns, they kind of look down on electric saunas. They're like, well, it's fine, I guess.
Before we wrap, I would love to just take it into the art for a minute too, because I think that's how I found you. Is my son loves art. He has decided he wants to study fine arts. That's all he does, and it's gotten him through a lot of ups and downs as well over the years. And so for the artists that are out there listening, I'm just wondering, like, when you do your illustrations, like, do you have a favorite, is it like a particular kind of marker or paints, or like a sort of a favorite, like, are you sketching them or painting them or process?
I mostly do digital now.
Yes.
So I use a Clip Studio Paint as a software, and I use a Cintiq tablet, which has an integrated screen on it. So you draw like on paper, basically. The most important part of the process of creating comics for me is to draw all of my ideas on paper first, as quickly as possible. I just need to throw all the ideas on paper, usually with a pen, so I cannot like smudge or erase it, just so that the whole process remains there for whenever I need to go back to it. Also, being far from any electronics when I create new content is very important for me, because I have ADHD, and it makes it very difficult for me to focus on stories on creating new material. When I have access to social media, my brain is soup, and it's just gonna leak everywhere if I let it out of the container. And so I usually go to a coffee shop. That's my plan for this afternoon. Actually, you'll find me in Halifax if you're listening to this in a few months, and you're like, I think I saw her at this coffee shop. She looked lost in space and time. Yes, that's me, just staring at my sketchbook, just for several hours, just writing down all the ideas and being far from social media.
That sounds wonderful.
We've got time for one more question. You've just finished 2 novels. What's next?
What's next? It was the Montreal Book Fair this weekend, and met several people from my publishing house who are just very eager for the next one. So I guess I'm gonna be working on that.
Fantastic.
Yes, in the Finnish winter, in between shoveling sessions. But I really want to work on masculinity in adolescence. My nephew is 12 currently, and I can see like the different forces in his own community pulling him different places, giving him like views of the world that are a very archaic and a very misogynistic, and it is present in our society. And I've been babysitting him since he was a baby, and to see how strong this pull can be for young teenagers, I want to address that. I want to talk about radicalization in youth, and that's probably going to be the next subject for my
I look forward to it then. I really look forward to seeing that.
Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for coming in and hanging out with us for a bit today. I'm glad that the snow didn't keep you away from us for too long.
I would love for you to send us a photo when you're back in Finland with all the snow around, and share
Northern
it with
Lights.
us.
Do you want Northern Lights?
Definitely.
Yeah, oh, yes, please. Northern Lights, absolutely. And yeah, we look forward to hearing when your next piece of work is out.
Yeah, also by Halifax.
Great. Thank you.
Have a good day.
It's the end of the road for this episode of Trans Canada Stories.
If you'd like more information on our other programming, check out simplygoodform.com. We hope you'll subscribe to our podcast, and that we'll see you again next time.